Welcome back to another DF Retro hardware-focused episode. Once again, I'm joined by my friend Audi.
Thanks for letting me be here.
Welcome to the show. We're hanging out here in the studio, and as I've done with other things such as the GCHD and the Capcom Arcade Stick, we're here to discuss our experiences with, well, the Mega SD flash cart, available for the Mega Drive / Sega Genesis. This is a cartridge designed to allow you to play all your Mega Drive and Sega Genesis games, as well as Master System and Sega CD. And that is one of the biggest features, and there's a lot to it. We both have this cart, I think.
Yeah, we've been having it for a few months now. We want to kind of talk about our experiences over the last few months.
Yeah. For me, I do have a large Mega Drive collection of physical games, but I find that these flash carts are extremely useful for when you need to capture things, or just, you know, it's especially with the new Sega CD support, this is a great potential option for essentially solving the aging issue that Sega CD hardware faces, because it's not the most reliable system in the world.
Also, retro collecting, especially for Mega Drive and Sega CD, has become kind of prohibitively expensive.
Exactly. And
so
this is a good way. So let's break it down then. So this bad boy ships in a cartridge in the shape of the Virtua Racing cartridge, which was necessary to house the rather large PCB created by Terraonion with this hardware on side. It uses an FPGA chip, and the correct voltages are also present in the hardware, says Terraonion, and it seems to be the case.
It is the case.
So basically, it's a nice cartridge. It looks nice visually. It doesn't wreck your hardware. It's a safe cartridge to use, and it makes a strong first impression from that perspective. My only complaint is that the SD card slot is it's a very tight fit, and actually getting your finger into that little hole there is not the easiest thing in the world.
For me, it's not. If you look at your fingers
compared
to mine,
you get tiny hands,
very tiny.
so
I have girly hands.
It works.
But it works for me, and yeah. I
So,
have no issue with it. Is this your first Terraonion product, by the way?
This is my first Terraonion product.
So they have the Neo Geo AES flash card.
Yeah, that looks fantastic as well, and I may have to check that out at some point in the future, because obviously, you know, it's a great way to get Neo Geo games. But before this, when I used flash cards, I have used the Mega EverDrive, or the EverDrive series from Crix, which are great.
Fantastic products.
Great products as well. Obviously, the Mega EverDrive was limited in the sense that it didn't support Mega CD. This is the new feature of the Terraonion card. So let's go through some of the different features on hand here, starting with the Mega CD.
We should mention then that the reason why EverDrives can't do Sega CD is because there are additional hardware specifications to the Sega CD.
That's correct. So the Sega CD itself then,
Yeah.
it's obviously an add-on hardware, has its own CPU and sound processor and additional graphics capabilities in addition to the CD-ROM drive. So it's not just using the original Mega Drive hardware. And as a result, you couldn't just run a ROM on a normal card.
No.
The Mega SD actually utilizes, it was designed to support this extra hardware through the Cartridge Bus. So it shares the same bus line as the original Mega CD hardware, despite the fact that it inserts through the top cartridge. The caveat there is that if you, like me, have a regular Mega CD hooked up to your Mega Drive, at least on my original Mega Drive, you can't use this and the Mega CD at the same time. And in fact, I even tried just unplugging the power from the Mega CD and using it, and it works, but you get a consistent buzzing noise.
Very loud buzzing noise.
Very loud. So you actually need to completely disconnect the real Mega CD from whichever Mega Drive console you're using, otherwise you'll have issues. And that's okay, because they share the same bus line. I get it. That makes perfect sense.
I think most people will be using this with the analog Mega SG though.
Yeah, I actually think this is a really good pairing for the Mega SG from Analog, which is another compact FPGA-based system for modern displays. Although with the DAC, you can also use it on a CRT.
You can, yes.
Which is cool. So anyway, Sega CD support. First of all, you do need BIOS files. You have to put them in the correct folder, the BIOS folder. It should be the no intro variety. And this is the menu system, the central pillar on which the Mega SD functions. It's a custom designed UI with a nice file browser and interesting graphics design. And of course, within here, you have your options menu. And this is where you have to go to initially set up support for Sega CD, which involves, of course, selecting the correct BIOS files.
For each region.
For each region. And there's various other configurations, including the option to adjust volume of PCM, CD audio, and all that separately.
FM support for Master System.
Of course. So all of this needs to be configured. Now, for the Mega CD itself then, the first thing you have to do is, of course, prep your SD card.
Yeah, so it has a folder system. You should really, I think the best way of doing it is separating it by system. The SCD bin and Q files need to be in their own separate folder per game within the Sega CD folder. It's a little bit of, for most people, I think they kind of want to just dump whatever they have from other sources they have onto the SD card, but you do have to kind of organize it a bit. For me, it's no problem because I organize all my stuff, as you know very well.
That's right.
But for some people I do know, and I've seen some reports that people have kind of been like, oh, it doesn't detect this game or that game. And it's just simply, you have to kind of, arrange
You have to manage your bins and queues correctly.
Yes.
So you can rip your original games or find them in other means and simply pop them into their own folder.
They should be bin and queue.
Correct. Bin and queue seems to be the preferred format. So now this is great. When you plug this thing into your system, you load it up, you select the bin or queue, I guess from the menu, and it does indeed load into the actual Mega CD BIOS. You have all the features. And in fact, by default, if you run without any sort of like region patching, you even run into the region check issue where it'll, if I have a multi-region Mega Drive that with the switchless mod. So I was set to Japanese mode, tried to boot into the US Sega CD BIOS, and of course you get the mismatch error message that you actually get if you plug an American Sega CD into the wrong region Mega Drive. Same thing. Obviously you can change the region to get around that, and I believe there's a way to patch that in through the menu system to overcome. So that's not a problem. From there though, it does just boot right into the game, just like a real Mega CD.
Yeah.
The loading is very similar, possibly just a touch faster.
It is a touch faster. We compared with Mortal Kombat on the real Sega CD because it loads before the fights. There's some loading into the fights for the sound and whatnot. And it's marginally faster, but not enough to say like, wow, this is way
It's
faster.
clearly accuracy is the name of the game here.
Right.
So it does work very similar to the real hardware. The next step though is the audio side of things.
Right.
And I've been listening to this myself. You've tested. I've talked with other users such as Bob from Retro RGB, and there is a variation in audio clarity. PCM in particular, so the digital audio playback. It's slightly more filtered on the real hardware I've found.
Yeah, it's much clearer. It's actually quite a bit clearer.
It sounds a little bit clearer on the Mega SD, but it also more highlights some of the noise inherent to.
Yeah, there's some popping and there's some
it's not 100% clear, but part of that is just the unit, either the way the files were stored or just a quirk of the hardware. CD audio, on the other hand, CD audio is an interesting one because depending on where you pull that from, you do get variable sound. So if you use, like, say, the headphone jack as a source, that'll sound different than using the cartridge slot or the slot from the side of the system to pull the audio. You can do this on a real hardware. You can also pull directly the left and right channel from the back of a Model 1, I guess Model 2 Mega CD as well. And it was always slightly different in terms of clarity depending on your source. And it's the same here where this again, it actually sounds slightly less clear, just a tad. But really, I mean, the key here is it's a great way to play Sega CD games. We tested several games, and everything seems to be working fine.
Yeah.
And I noticed no inaccuracies or strange behavior at this point.
One thing that's really cool about this for me was that there's some ROM hacks out there now for the Sega CD, like Unworked, which fixes the working designs, difficulty, whatnot, and some of the translation issues with those games. And they run magnificently on this.
That's actually a good point. This is an easy way to play the ROM hacks and various homebrew, and you can do like the Sonic Mega Mix. I think there's a CD version of that.
I don't think it was ever finished, but
No, it's not. But all of that works just fine on here, which is a key feature. But the other key feature, and one of the coolest things about this, is the MD Plus support.
Right. So for those who aren't familiar, there was a similar thing on the Higan emulator for Super Nintendo by BU, which was a CD audio emulation basically put onto the Super Nintendo game.
Which is basically called MSU1.
MSU1.
And that's the idea then is exactly to simulate what the Sega CD often brought to the table, which is Red Book digital audio during gameplay. And obviously the games themselves needed to have hooks put in place to handle this. So each game had to be modified separately, the correct audio tracks pulled in, the ROMs patched, and then you could use this. And the EverDrive series, or sorry, the SD2 SNES has the hardware built in to support this as well. So MSU1 support has grown. There's a ton of games you can play. I mean, you can even add video. Like there's that Zelda pack, one of the first ones, which
animated
has
videos,
animated cutscenes like this, and then
they
the
did
CD
one for
audio
Chrono
tracks.
Trigger too.
Yep, they pulled the PlayStation cutscenes.
Yeah,
in.
exactly.
Super cool. Obviously, the Sega CD exists, and that's exactly what it did for real hardware. But this is a way to add in features such as CD digital audio into normal Mega Drive games. So one of the ones that I tested then, once you set this up, of course you have to download a patch file. You need a ROM file and you need the audio files. You patch it. And this is provided somebody's made the pack. You can make these custom packs on your own. And the first one we tested actually was Strider. Which I think Joe from GameSack actually worked on this one.
He did, yeah.
He did an excellent job at sort of solving one of my complaints with that game is that the sound, this music, it's a bit tinny and it's not great. So this new soundtrack version greatly improves the experience, and it works exactly as you would expect. I mean, it's the original Mega Drive game, but with CD audio.
Yeah, Joe has good taste in game music, so he knows.
He also did Ys, right?
He did E3 alongside Corey from My Life in Gaming, I believe.
Oh yeah.
So, and that one is really good. And actually, I remember that because Joe had to tell the Terraonion people to fix some stuff, so he actually helped improve MD Plus with that patch.
That's excellent. So. It's nice that they're actually able to react in this way and continue to update the firmware, because some of these features, you know, when I got this, did have to update the firmware, of course. So that's something to keep in mind. You do need to update your Terraonion cart to the latest version to use that.
Yeah, and actually Terraonion, if you go to the support page there, they do have the technical manual of how to make these MD Plus games.
That's
so you can make your own.
I'm gonna look into that as well. I'm very curious about that. It sounds like a fun task.
Mega Turrican with the Turrican soundtrack anthology.
I would love that Mega Turrican with that. Wow, that would be an excellent way to go.
So Mega Turrican is excellent.
It already sounds good. Maybe we need a patch for Marble Madness or something.
Something like that.
But either way, that's kind of the CD side of things. The MD plus Mega CD support. Very good stuff.
It hasn't grown as much as MSU1 yet. And I think that's because the availability of the emulation side has MSU1.
I feel like we need this built into an emulator of sorts.
Blastum or something.
Yeah, Blastum with support for this would be excellent and perhaps help grow the scene. Because these music packs are a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to revisit these old games. I've enjoyed a lot of the MSU1 stuff already.
Yeah.
This is very promising. I hope to see more. So
thanks to Joe, at least, keeping it alive.
Exactly. So that alone is a good reason to use this cart, I think.
Yeah, I think ROM hacks and MD Plus support is definitely one of the selling points.
Plus Sega CD preservation. Now, of course, like any other flash cart, this also supports Mega Drive games and Master System, as we noted earlier. And yeah, we tested it. You know, I've actually been using, since I got this cart, I've switched over to using this as my full-time flash cart. And it's usually for if I need quick footage of Mega Drive games, or if I'm playing on the Mega SG and I don't want to, get the physical cartridge out. This is a great way to just quickly be able to jump in. It's also great for testing ROM hacks and also playing around with demos, like some of the scene demos that are out there, of course. All of that stuff you can do through here. I was using a Mega EverDrive X5. I've switched entirely to this, and the support has been excellent. It supports games the X5 could not, often due to the RAM size.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, yeah, this one does also have an actual in-game overlay. And if you're using the Mega SG as well, by default it's down and start. This is up and start.
Okay.
And you actually you can reset the game. When playing Sega CD games, you can adjust the CDDA
volume
and PCM volume separately. For some games like Mortal Kombat, the CD music is a little bit
loud.
loud.
Yeah, so it really
by
fixes
default.
some of those
So you can
issues.
actually solve this entirely. And you can get right back to your ROM list. There's a lot of options on here over what you could do with, like, say, the X5.
Yeah, and also the UI for the game selection will be enhanced because I do believe Terraonion is going to release this screenshot generator, because there is this little TV
That's
there.
right, and you can see the TV in the corner that
a
just
lot of people
displays
have been
Terra
wondering,
TV.
yeah, a lot
but
of people
clearly
wondering.
there's plans for that as well.
They just released that tool for the PC Engine system they have for the CD thing.
Oh,
so.
yeah. That's a cool little device as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, Terraonion's really been kind of up and coming in terms of this sort of hardware.
Right. They had some issues shipping this thing out, I know, but once everyone got their product, I think.
Yeah, that actually seems to be one of the key complaints. I
Yeah,
think,
it took
is
a
that
while to get them out.
It's more like some of the shipping costs, depending on where they shipped from. It sort of jacked up the shipping costs.
They weren't really that forward about it, which we should mention, but I think those concerns have been, been fine afterwards. People got the product, it is what they promised it to be, and it's
Absolutely.
really high quality.
It's a great device, actually, yeah. But, again, this is just some nice impressions of it that we've had.
We should mention, John, that it does have 32X support.
Yeah, you're right. So also, yes, you can load 32X games on here, as was the case with the EverDrive, but you need an actual 32X to use them. It doesn't simulate the hardware.
No.
And if you use the upcoming analog DAC, you should also be able to use 32X with the Mega SG, with this as well, if you want to use the ROM files, and all of that should work together. I haven't had much of a time to actually test the 32X itself on the SG, but I do need to play with that. When the final DAC is complete, because I had I had some cable management issues to sort out, so I haven't gone in too deep yet, but I do want to test more of that. But either way, there is, if you want even more technical detail on this, I do suggest checking out some of the other reviews as well, like obviously Retro RGB, and GameSack did a nice piece on it as well, and of course My Life in Gaming, all friends of the show, I suppose. But this is just my impressions as someone that has used the product now for a while and have enjoyed using it. I do recommend it in that sense. This is probably the best flash cart for the system at the moment, although I do hear Crix also has his own.
Apparently he's making something somewhat similar.
Oh, and I believe this supports Virtua Racing as well.
It does, yeah.
Which is a key thing to mention, since that has the SVP chip built in, and that is simulated through this as well. Right. So it's a nice little bonus, especially considering it uses the same cart shape.
Yeah.
So yeah, so what, final impressions then for you?
I mean, this opens up the library for everyone, especially the Sega Mega Drive, I think, has some of the stronger ROM hack support because of all the Sonic hacks, and also recently someone did the TMNT of Rage, which is a really excellent mashup of Turtles and Streets of Rage.
We'll have to play that later.
We should play it later, and it's very well done, and with this we can finally play it on real hardware.
Perfect.
And yeah, I did have some issues with, I should mention, when I first got this thing, 2 of my SD cards got corrupted when using the Mega SD. I believe this had something to do with early firmware though. Okay. But do remind yourself to update the firmware when you get this, and because it might corrupt the SD card.
Cool. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this piece here. So thanks for joining me as always.
As always.
If you guys enjoyed this more casual DF Retro video, as always, be sure to let us know. Like and subscribe and all that good stuff. Ring the notification bell and find us over on Twitter. And until next time, stay retro.